Hello and welcome to another whiteboard training seminar with Cheeky Scientist. I'm Isaiah Henkel, and today we're talking about whether or not you have a limited academic mindset. Now, this is something that can develop over time and for a variety of reasons. For example, you can get used to being paid a lot less than you're worth, and now you think that's all that you should ever get paid. Maybe you hear about the averages for all postdocs or for all graduate student stipends, and it's very low, so you are psychologically anchored low and thinking that you're not worth very much. Maybe you're in a situation where you have a difficult advisor or PI or a mentor or thesis committee or whatever it might be, and you can feel like you don't have any options outside of dealing with that person in terms of advancing your career. Maybe you are in a difficult visa situation where if you upset somebody, you're afraid of getting kicked out of a lab or a course and losing your visa and literally having to leave the country. Because of all this, you can start to feel very powerless. And this is something we'd like to talk about because what we see in Cheeky Scientist and in our association is that what really holds PhDs back from getting into high-paying jobs where they can do meaningful work is their own mindset. And this kind of limited mindset makes it easy for us to make excuses such as, oh, that data is not correct. The job situation for PhDs really isn't that bad. Or that's not something I could do because of XYZ reason. I'm too old, or I have a gap on my resume. We hear that a lot, right? I took a couple years off, or maybe I've been unemployed for a year or a few months, whatever it might be. I don't have a visa or resident card currently that will allow me to work in industry. I need to get sponsored. We hear that a lot. No industry experience. How can I get an industry job without industry experience? Or all of the job postings say I only need a master's. Is my PhD a liability? Right? All of these issues have to do with mindset. Now, again, in Cheeky Scientist and the association, we've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of PhDs from all kinds of backgrounds transition into top jobs. It's entirely possible for you, but the first thing you have to change is your mindset. You have to start thinking, oh, this is possible for me. Oh, I can get paid double what I'm paid in academia and still do quality work. No recommendation letter from your PI. Again, these struggles, I understand that they can seem daunting. They seem like you can't overcome them. Personally for me, when I was in graduate school, I got into a very difficult situation with my advisor, and he didn't want to let me graduate. And it resulted in years of conflict. And so I know what it's like to have one person who holds the keys to your future. And being stuck in that environment where you're paid very low, you're not taught about what other options are available. You're just taught to do one thing, the traditional academic path. For me, it became very hard to the point of where we had a first author situation where an authorship was being kind of used as a carrot for many of us in the lab. And at the end of the day, my PI decided to make all three of us co-author. And then what was used as a carrot after that is to change who is the actual first author on the paper, even though we all had an asterisk of who was the first author. It got so crazy that we had to sit down with our department and go through sentence by sentence the paper and every data point and answer, did you directly work on this sentence? Did you directly work on this piece of data? Just these ridiculous things that you might have to deal with, or maybe you are dealing with as a PhD in academia. And this kind of behavior and feeling trapped like this and getting used to not speaking up or not seeing other possibilities gives you a limited academic mindset. We've worked with many people who are on a visa and they're working in academia, but if they upset their PI, they can get kicked out of the lab and lose their visa. So they will literally allow their PI or their advisor or whoever it is to treat them horribly just so they keep their visa. To the point of where they're forced to do manual labor for their PI. We've seen PI pocket all of their moving expense money or their new lab money and just have these international PhDs do all of the work for them in the lab, setting up equipment, everything that they had funds for, but again, being used as almost manual labor. This kind of stuff happens. It's real in academia, and again, it can make you feel very invaluable. Now, maybe you have a good PI or a good advisor, and instead you're just faced with making a very small amount of money, right? If you look at the national averages, let's say we just focus on the US here, the average that an academic postdoc makes in the US is $46,142 a year. That's it. Now, the majority of them make under $40,000. This is just the average overall, right? So this is whether you're a first year or a 10-year postdoc, that's the average. And there was an article posted recently about a Nobel laureate who said academia has become a scheme. Like there was a time 20, 30 years ago, you didn't even need postdoc experience to get into a professorship. Now you have to chase multiple postdocs. And you can't even do a postdoc and tell your PI or whoever your boss is or the university that you plan to transition after a couple of years. They won't even let you create a strategy for your own career. They basically want to hear that you're going to work in academia forever or as long as it takes and continue to be cheap labor that's not even paid at the level of the 0-year suggestion, the 0-year guideline for the NIH. Now contrast that to industry, and the average that a PhD makes in industry, the average, this is for STEM PhDs, and what I mean by that is life sciences, physical sciences, engineering, social sciences. Social sciences is STEM, according to the National Science Foundation, and they do make, this is their average as well. The average overall, yes, the average is $95,823 in the US. So look at that difference. You're getting paid half of what you're worth by staying in academia. And the reason you're staying in academia is because you've never been trained on how to get a job outside of academia. And so you stay there chasing postdocs, or you wait until you get your PhD, you end up either unemployed or having to do a postdoc, and that's how you can get stuck. And they keep you stuck by telling you, oh, you can't get a job because you have a gap on your resume. You don't have a letter of recommendation from your PI. You don't have a visa. You need to get sponsored. You don't have any industry experience. These things don't matter. Once you know what kind of job you want, by applying the right strategies with your PhD, you can get hired into any job you want in industry. No matter what your background is, you can leverage your transferable skills to get hired. And this is what our mission is to get as many PhDs hired in industry as possible. Like personally, my dream is to have every single PhD that gets granted get a job in industry. Get your PhD, go to industry. Get paid what you're worth, do meaningful work. Some other numbers here. Look at this number, 64,000. Just in the US, 64,000 PhDs are granted every year. Okay? 64,000. A couple of years ago, it was about 50,000. A couple of years before that, you're looking at 40,000. It is climbing rapidly. 64,000 a year. Okay? A year. Now, how many professorships are opening up each year? About 4,000. And that's a generous number. About 4,000. So you have 60,000 PhDs just in the US. 60,000 who could never get a professorship even if they had 10 Nature papers, 10 Cell papers, etc. What do you think you're going to do by staying in academia? Do you really think you're going to be a professor? Do you really think there's going to be a tenured professorship for you? There's not. Now in industry, there's still competition, but there are many more jobs. Depending on the publication you look at, about 30,000 PhDs get hired in industry every year. And those are just in PhD level positions. Now, of course, as a PhD, you can get into a master's level position. Very often we see our associates apply for master level positions and they create a senior level position once they realize they have a PhD. This is what's possible for you. We've had associates who have had a 2.5-year gap on their resume because they took time off to raise their kids. Who were unemployed for 18 months straight, no work at all, who had been unemployed several times. And because they had a PhD, because their PhD is so valuable, it's not valuable in academia, but it's valuable in industry, because it was valuable, they were able to change their strategies and get a top job, getting paid this or above. Now again, this is our mission at Cheeky Scientist, and I'm a PhD, we're all PhDs here, we're for PhDs by PhDs. And we know that PhDs, you're not going to listen just to me or just to somebody else on our team. And this is why we do video testimonial after video testimonial after video testimonial, and they're all raw and uncut on this Facebook page. We put them on LinkedIn so that you can watch actual PhDs who have made the transition to industry. You can hear about their struggles, which are diverse and probably some of the same struggles you're going through, and hear about how they transitioned anyway. This is possible for you. And really that's a takeaway message here, is that it's possible for you to be paid what you're worth and do meaningful work. Your PhD is still valuable, it's just not valuable in academia. It's valuable in industry, and that's just simple supply and demand. There's too many PhDs right now in academia. Your career future is in industry. It's never going to be in academia again. The system is broken. The postdoctoral system is broken. There's no hope for you. And this is why we get used to getting excited about very small things when we're in academia, right? Like now we're excited about a pizza party. When I was going through grad school, like what I looked forward to is getting my PhD and having that sad little pizza party to celebrate the fact that I defended my thesis. You need to get your hopes up higher than that. You need to raise your expectations higher than a pizza party. That's why I have this stop chasing pizza graphic. Okay, you have to start expecting more for yourself, seeing yourself as a confident and successful industry professional. It is possible for you. If you want more materials on this, you want to learn more about transitioning into industry, you can go to phdsgethired.com, phdsgethired.com. This will take you to a page where you can learn more about the Cheeky Scientist Association. One thing, and I'll leave you with this, a lot of people come to us and say, well, you're biased, Cheeky Scientist, right on this Facebook page. Like, you're biased about, you don't want people to stay in academia. No, we don't want any PhD to stay in the current academic environment. No PhDs should stay in academia. You should all transition to industry because that's where the jobs are, that's where you're going to be paid what you're worth. And once that starts happening, then things will be, they'll be forced to improve in academia. Okay, so stop waiting for things to get better where you are. Start getting the training that you need. Start seeing possibilities. It is possible for you to be paid what you're worth and to do meaningful work in industry. But it's not going to happen with an academic mindset that's limited. So start expanding your mindset. Start remembering your value as a PhD and start making your transition and spending time and allocating time to your transition and to your career progress overall. So I'll see you again. We'll do another whiteboard training very soon. Until next time, remember your value as a PhD and start thinking and acting like a successful industry professional.